Humanities, and welcome back to class. Hopefully you enjoyed the movie Gravity this week, the first film we watched for semester 2. I do plan to have several more that we'll end up tuning into throughout the semester. So hopefully you like that one. Like I said, kind of in the commentary to it, it's not like one of my all-time favorite movies. It doesn't make my top 10 movie list or anything, but it was one that caught my eye when it came out because it tried to be so realistic. And I knew that the producers and director of that movie had worked with astronauts to try to give it a very realistic feel. And for kicking off a space unit, I wanted to do something realistic to start. And then who knows if I tie in another movie into this unit as well, maybe we'll get a little bit crazy and get a little more far-fetched and stretch or push the boundaries a little bit for that. So for Hitting Gravity, I think a perfect follow-up assignment to that movie is doing something with space debris. I would definitely guess that most of you have probably never heard of space debris until this lesson or until watching the Gravity movie this week. But it's something that's been on my radar for a couple years now. Really, it was the first time I saw Gravity about 5 or 6 years ago. That was the first time I ever heard of space debris or even knew that that was an issue at all. And now if you're paying attention to the news and you can get out of like the political tribalism and all that, this is something that's becoming a growing problem. Of course, you always hear like global warming and pollution. Those are probably more pressing, concerns, I guess, at this point in human history. But space debris is becoming quite a big issue too, because, today we're so heavily reliant on the internet and our devices and our technology and being plugged in that way. Of course, now more than ever in school with everybody working virtually and remote and all that. And of course, to have high-speed internet, to be able to function how we do in our society today, you have to have satellites and like fiber optic cable on the ground, but satellites in the sky feeding all that and, shooting data around. So now think about this. Space debris, can really come from anything that we've ever shot up into space. Pretty much all of it that is in Earth's orbit is man-made stuff. And it's where we will blow up satellites or we'll shoot missiles up there. There'll be an accident. A shuttle might blow up. There's a lot of different ways that we can put debris out there. The problem is that debris never really goes away. Once it's up in Earth's orbit, sometimes it'll have a decaying orbit and start coming in closer to Earth. That's a good thing if it does that, because once it gets sucked in close enough to the atmosphere and starts coming in closer to Earth, the atmosphere will just burn it right up. But for the stuff that is in a stable orbit, it basically just stays up there forever. So think of it like the ocean or the oceans on Earth: the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Indian, Arctic. Those oceans are massive and big, but they're starting to fill up with debris and junk too. And we put more and more stuff in over time, and it can decay and kind of rot away out in the ocean. But things like plastic or aluminum cans, they stay there a long time. Well, up in space, it stays there even longer. And then a crazy thing about space debris that is not like debris in the ocean is it's traveling at a super high velocity. It's going like tens of thousands of miles an hour. So it is literally traveling faster than like a speeding bullet. And then if you have a satellite up there in a stable orbit that is constantly like feeding information to, say, us here in Michigan, if you get some of that debris coming in too close to it, it can be like it's getting shot with like buckshot or something, but at a super speeded trajectory there, and can really tear stuff up and cause a lot of problems. Now, we haven't had many incidents of space debris like affecting us down here on this, like the bottom level, is just consumers and average people yet. But it is something that our government and a lot of the big corporations that really heavily rely on those satellites staying up, it's a problem that's increasingly coming onto their radar. Now, who is in charge of tracking it? In the video that I am sharing with you today, it gets into that a little bit, but basically it always has been the United States Air Force is probably the most reliable, organization out there or entity that is tracking space debris. But now that is starting to shift here all in the last about 2 years or so, since President Trump had announced the creation of the newest branch of our military, which is called the Space Force, which when I heard that get announced, and granted, Trump says a lot of outlandish, very kind of bombastic things. So you can always take anything he's saying with a grain of salt, but a lot of people kind of scoffed at that and laughed it off like, oh, Space Force, what is that going to be? Like a bunch of stormtroopers up there with their laser guns and pew, pew, shooting. But that's not what Space Force is. Really, the biggest job of our Space Force today, I think, is, and it's only like a couple thousand guys that got transferred out of the Air Force to make their own separate department. The biggest job that I'm aware of that they have at this point in history is they track the space debris and they try to keep our satellites safe and our astronauts and the people on the International Space Station. And America, up to this point, has done a better job than any other country or any international organization at tracking space debris and trying to keep everybody's satellites safe. So that'll be a question that I'm going to piggyback on there too. Should we help out other countries and private corporations and all that? Or should the American government, which Space Force is getting paid for by American tax dollars, should we really only worry about our stuff? Or should it be a team effort? Maybe we should start rethinking this problem. And I'm hoping young people, somebody in your generation, as you guys get older, will come up with some really creative and innovative ideas as to how we can clear some of that space debris out. Right now, up to, from what I know of it, there's not been a lot of great ideas for how you can even go up there and efficiently take out space debris and pull it out of the orbit. But I do know, like out in the oceans, there's a lot of junk out there. There is this Dutch guy who I had just heard in an interview not too long ago named Boyan Slot, who has rigged up something that like these buoys that go out in the ocean and they have long arms on them and they're just like kind of scooping up debris out of the ocean, and then ships will come up and pull out load after load of it, and it's kind of like starting to have an impact and clear junk out of the ocean. He is a young guy like in his 20s that came up with this idea, so I'm hoping the same will be true for like the space debris, that before that becomes too big of a problem and all our satellites start going down and we start losing connectivity and it really starts to impact us here on like the bottom consumer, like average person level. I'm hoping somebody will come up with a really good idea and we can start to fix that problem. So hopefully technology advances enough that before it becomes a crippling issue, we can get that under control and managed and kind of fix that up and clean things up there. That's pretty much what I got for you today. I really want you to go through or next and view the YouTube video that I attached to this. I'm kind of rambling and all over the place, but in that video, it's way more concise and professionally done. It's a news organization called Vice, and they work collaboratively with HBO, and they did a pretty good, concise, I think it's about a 13-minute clip where they really explain space debris in broken down kind of common sense terms and can help you understand this whole issue better. And then in a follow-up to that, we're going to have a Q&A assignment today where I think I posted 3 pretty easy questions. Remember, that's the one style of assignment that you have to hit by the due date. So please double check the due date, go into that post, and after you watch these videos, give me a nice response there where you give me a thoughtful answer and display a little bit of the critical thinking that you have done. All right. I hope you enjoyed the video I also attached to this post. Take care.